Before we begin, just pause for a second. Close your eyes if it feels safe. Place one hand on your heart. Take one slow, deep breath in through your nose. Feel it fill your chest. Soften your shoulders. Calm your mind. Now exhale slowly. Let any tension or expectation drift away. What if I told you that just 3 simple words used with real sincerity could leave a lasting emotional echo in someone's mind long after the conversation ends? Not because they're clever, not because they're rehearsed, but because they create a moment of genuine feeling. A moment her heart remembers even when she doesn't want to think about it. And I want you to really sit with that for a second. When was the last time someone said something to you that didn't just pass through your ears, but stayed? When was the last time a message made you pause, reread it, maybe even smile without realizing it? Or maybe it's been a while. Maybe most conversations in your life lately have felt flat, predictable, almost mechanical. Just surface-level words passing back and forth, never quite touching anything real inside you. If that's you, you're not alone. Most people today are communicating constantly, but connecting very rarely. And deep down, you can feel the difference. There's a quiet part of you that craves something more meaningful, something more human, something that feels real. Most people spend hours overthinking messages, trying to be funny, perfect, or impressive. They rewrite texts, second-guess themselves, analyze responses, and still end up feeling like nothing truly landed. Because attraction isn't logical. It isn't built on effort alone. It lives in the unconscious, in the quiet emotional shifts that happen when words feel honest, present, and alive. And here's where it gets interesting. The human brain doesn't remember everything. It filters, it edits, it keeps what feels emotionally significant, and lets everything else fade into the background. That's why you can forget dozens of conversations. But remember one sentence someone said to you years ago. Today, we're going to explore exactly how to create those moments. Not through games, not through manipulation, not through tricks or scripts, but through authentic communication that makes someone feel truly seen, valued, and emotionally moved. And if this already feels important to you, take a second right now to like the video. Not for me, but because it helps this message reach people who are tired of surface-level interactions and want something deeper. And if you're someone who genuinely wants to grow in emotional intelligence and real connection, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because what we're building here isn't just attraction, it's awareness. Now let's settle in. Get comfortable. This is your time to listen, reflect, and maybe even see your past conversations in a completely new way. Think about the last time someone sent you a message that actually stayed with you. Not the, "Hey, how are you?" Not the polite check-ins. I'm talking about the message that made you feel something, the one that made you pause, the one that maybe even shifted your mood. What made it different? It wasn't longer. It wasn't more complicated. It carried emotion. It painted a picture. It made you feel seen in a way that most people don't even try to. Most daily conversations are safe, polite, and completely forgettable. "Hey, how's your day?" "Good, you?" "Busy." And just like that, gone. They blend into the background noise of life. Your mind doesn't record them because there's no emotional weight, no curiosity, no warmth, no vivid image to replay later. It's like trying to remember what you ate 3 Tuesdays ago. There's nothing there to hold on to. But your unconscious mind, it works differently. It's not logical. It's not organized. It's emotional. It's visual. It's associative. It's like an artist. It sketches the moments that feel alive and blurs everything else. So when your words carry real feeling, curiosity, appreciation, presence, they don't just get heard, they get felt. And once something is felt deeply enough, it lingers. It shows up in quiet moments. It replays when she's alone. It echoes in ways she doesn't consciously control. That's what psychologists call emotional anchoring. And once you understand it, you start to realize something powerful. Attraction isn't built in grand gestures. It's built in small, emotionally charged moments that feel authentic. A simple, "How are you?" disappears. But a sentence that makes someone feel understood, that stays. Now, here's where most people go wrong. They try to force impact. They try to sound impressive. They use lines they don't even believe in. And because of that, something feels off. Have you ever read a message and thought, this sounds nice, but it doesn't feel real? That's because your brain is incredibly good at detecting incongruence. When words don't match energy, tone, or intention, they lose their power instantly. And this is why the three words we're about to explore are so effective. Not because of the words themselves, but because of what they represent when used correctly. They represent clarity. They represent attention. They represent appreciation. And most importantly, they represent emotional honesty. These aren't pickup lines. They're tools. And like any tool, their impact depends entirely on how and why you use them. The first word is simple, but incredibly misunderstood. I want. Now pause for a second and notice your reaction to that. For some people, it feels strong, grounded, direct. For others, it might feel uncomfortable, maybe even a little intimidating. And that's exactly why it works. Because most people avoid clarity. They hide behind uncertainty. They soften their intentions to avoid rejection. Instead of saying what they truly feel, they say things like, maybe we could hang out sometime. If you're free, no pressure. And while that might feel safe, it doesn't create emotional impact. It creates ambiguity. Now imagine a different approach. I want to take you to dinner this weekend. I know a great place. Feel the difference. There's no pressure, there's no force, but there is clarity. And clarity is attractive because it signals emotional maturity. When you say I want with calm confidence, you're not demanding anything. You're simply expressing your intention without hiding it. And that does something very subtle psychologically. It creates polarity. It creates a dynamic where one person is grounded in their desire and the other is free to respond authentically. That's what healthy attraction looks like. Not chasing, not convincing, not over-explaining, just expressing. But here's the key, and this is where most people get it wrong. I want only works when it's backed by presence. If it comes from neediness, it feels heavy. If it comes from insecurity, it feels forced. But when it comes from a calm, centered place, it feels safe. And safety is what allows attraction to grow. Let me give you a real-life example. I once worked with someone who struggled with this exact thing. He was kind, thoughtful, intelligent. But when it came to expressing interest, he would hesitate, overthink, water everything down. One day, after a meaningful conversation with someone he genuinely liked, he simply said, I want to see you again. I enjoyed this. No performance, no overthinking. And do you know what happened? She paused, smiled, and said, I like that you're clear. That moment stayed with her, not because of the words themselves, but because of how they were delivered. Calm, present, real. And that's what we're building here. Not lines, not strategies, presence. Now, if this is already shifting the way you think about communication, I want you to comment the word clarity below. Not just as engagement, but as a small commitment to yourself that you're ready to start showing up more honestly in your interactions. Because what we're about to explore next is where things get even deeper. The second word is small, almost invisible, but it changes everything. Because. And in the next part, I'm going to show you how this one word transforms ordinary sentences into something emotionally unforgettable, and why most people completely underestimate its power. Because. Such a small word, so ordinary that most people never notice it. And yet, it holds a quiet kind of power that can completely transform the way someone experiences your words. Let me show you what I mean. Imagine someone says to you, I enjoy talking to you. It's nice, polite, maybe even a little flattering, but it doesn't stay. Now feel the difference when that same sentence becomes, I enjoy talking to you because you have this thoughtful way of seeing things that makes me pause and think differently. Do you feel that shift? Suddenly it's not just a statement, it's a reflection. It carries evidence. It tells you that the person isn't just speaking, they're observing, noticing, paying attention. And that is rare. Most people move through conversations half present. They listen just enough to respond. They wait for their turn to speak. They focus on what to say next instead of fully receiving what's being shared. So when someone uses because in a genuine way, it signals something deeper. It says, I see you. Not just your words, but the way you think, the way you express, the subtle details that most people overlook. And psychologically, this taps into one of the most fundamental human needs, the need to feel recognized. Not admired in a surface level way, not complimented for appearance, but understood. There's a difference between someone saying, you're interesting, and someone saying, you're interesting because you don't just answer questions, you reflect on them in a way that feels very intentional. One feels generic, the other feels personal, and personal creates emotional resonance. Let me take you a little deeper into why this works. There was a fascinating study in psychology where people were more likely to agree to a request when it included the word because, even when the reason that followed was simple or obvious. Why? Because the brain is wired to respond to meaning. When you give a reason, you reduce uncertainty, you create structure, you make the interaction feel more grounded and intentional. But in emotional communication, it goes beyond logic. Because creates a bridge between your feeling and your awareness. It shows that your words are not random. They're rooted in something real. And that's what makes someone pause. That's what makes them replay the sentence later. That's what makes them think, wow, he actually noticed that about me. And here's something important you need to understand. Specificity is what separates forgettable from unforgettable. Most people stay vague because it feels easier. You're nice. You're fun. I like talking to you. But vague language doesn't anchor emotion. It slides off the mind because it could apply to anyone. Specific language attaches. I like talking to you because you don't rush to fill silence. You actually sit with it, and that makes conversations feel calm. Now that creates a feeling. It paints a picture. It gives the mind something to hold on to. Let me give you a real-life scenario. Imagine you're on a date. The conversation flows naturally. There are small pauses, but they don't feel awkward. There's a sense of ease. At the end, instead of saying, I had a good time, you say, I had a good time because it felt easy to just be myself around you. Do you see what happens there? You're not just expressing enjoyment, you're giving her insight into how she made you feel. And when someone realizes they've made you feel something meaningful, it deepens the connection instantly, because now it's not just about attraction. It's about impact. Now here's where it becomes even more powerful. When you combine because with genuine observation, you create emotional safety. And emotional safety is one of the strongest foundations of attraction. Because when someone feels seen in a positive, non-judgmental way, they relax. They open up. They become more of themselves. And that's when real connection begins. But, and this is very important, this only works when it's real. You cannot fake specificity. You cannot invent depth. People can feel the difference between observation and performance. So instead of trying to come up with something impressive, slow down. Listen more carefully. Pay attention to the small things. The way she explains something. The way she reacts. The little patterns in her behavior that reveal who she is beneath the surface. Because those are the things that matter. And when you reflect those back to her using because, it feels like a mirror she didn't know she needed. Now, I want you to try something. The next time you're in a conversation, whether it's a message, a call, or in person, pause before you respond. Ask yourself, what did I actually notice here? Not what sounds good, not what will impress. What did you genuinely observe? And then express it simply. I like that you said that because, that stood out to me because, I respect that because, you'll be surprised how differently people respond to you. Because now you're not just participating in conversation, you're creating experience. And experience is what people remember. If this is starting to click for you, take a second and like the video. Not just as a habit, but as a signal that you're beginning to understand something most people overlook. And I'd love for you to comment one thing you've noticed about someone recently, but maybe never said out loud. This is where your awareness starts to sharpen. Because the more you notice, the more meaningful your words become. Now we're about to move into the third word, and this one is different. This one doesn't just create attraction. It creates depth. It creates trust. It creates something that goes far beyond first impressions. I appreciate. And in the next part, I'm going to show you why this word has the power to shift how someone feels about you on a much deeper emotional level, and how to use it in a way that feels rare, grounding, and unforgettable. I appreciate. Out of the three, this is the one that carries the most emotional depth, because appreciation is different from attraction. Attraction can be quick, it can be visual, it can come and go, but appreciation is slower, it's intentional. It comes from truly seeing someone, not just for how they look or what they do, but for who they are beneath all of that. And that's what makes it so powerful. Most people are used to compliments. You look nice. You're beautiful. You have a great smile. And while there's nothing wrong with those, they don't go very deep. In fact, many people hear them so often that they stop feeling anything at all. But appreciation? That's rare. Because appreciation requires presence. It requires you to actually notice something meaningful about someone's character, their energy, their way of being in the world. And when you express that, it lands differently. Instead of saying, "You're nice," imagine saying, "I appreciate how thoughtful you are with people." It's not something you see often, and it genuinely stands out. Do you feel the difference? One is surface level. The other feels like recognition, and recognition is what creates emotional impact. Because deep down, people don't just want to be liked, they want to be understood and valued. Let me share something subtle, but important. When you appreciate someone, you're not trying to get something from them. You're not seeking validation, you're giving recognition freely. And that creates a completely different energy. It removes pressure, it removes expectation, it allows the moment to simply exist. And that's what makes it feel safe. Now here's where it all comes together. When you combine all three, I want, because, I appreciate, you create a sentence that doesn't just communicate interest. It creates a moment. For example, I want to see you again because I really appreciate the calm energy you bring. It makes everything feel lighter. Pause and really feel that. There's clarity, there's reasoning, there's depth, and most importantly, there's sincerity. That kind of sentence doesn't feel like a line. It feels like truth. And truth is what people remember, because it's so rare. Most people are guarded, distracted, performing, trying to say the right thing. But when someone speaks with honesty, presence, and emotional awareness, it cuts through all of that. It reaches something deeper. Now let's talk about what's actually happening psychologically when you speak this way. There are three key elements at play. First, emotional anchoring. When your words create a positive emotional experience, your presence becomes associated with that feeling. So later, when she thinks of you, she doesn't just remember what you said. She remembers how she felt. Second, novelty. You're breaking the pattern of predictable, surface-level conversation. And the brain is naturally drawn to what feels different. Not louder, not more impressive, just more real. Third, emotional safety. There's no pressure in your words, no neediness, no hidden agenda, just clear, grounded expression. And when someone feels emotionally safe, they open up. They lean in. They become curious about you. But this is where responsibility comes in, because with emotional impact comes influence. And influence should always be used with integrity. These words are not meant to manipulate. They're not meant to create false attachment or play with someone's emotions. They are meant to express what is already true. So timing matters. You don't force these words into every conversation. You don't rush to say them just to create an effect. You wait for moments that are already real, after a meaningful conversation, at the end of a date that genuinely felt good, in a quiet moment where something natural was shared. And when you say them simply. No over-explaining, no trying too hard, just calm, steady presence. Your tone matters, your body language matters, your eye contact matters. Because words alone are never enough. They need to be supported by congruence. If your energy is rushed, your words lose depth. If your tone is uncertain, your message feels weak. But when everything aligns, your words land. And here's something else you need to remember. Not everyone will respond the same way, and that's okay. Attraction is mutual, connection is mutual. If someone doesn't meet your energy, you don't chase, you don't convince, you respect it. Because the goal isn't to make everyone feel something, it's to connect with the people who naturally resonate with your presence. That's what creates something real. Now, I want you to reflect for a moment. Think about someone in your life right now, someone you genuinely enjoy talking to, someone who has a quality you respect, but maybe you've never expressed it. What would it sound like if you spoke to them with this level of clarity and appreciation? Not perfectly, not poetically, just honestly. Maybe it's, I appreciate how calm you are in stressful situations. Or, I like talking to you because you make things feel simple. Or even, I want to spend more time with you. I enjoy this. Simple, real, human. And sometimes, that's all it takes to create a moment someone never forgets. If this resonated with you, I want you to comment one sentence you could say to someone in your life using these 3 words. Not for validation, but as practice. Because awareness without action fades. And this is something you learn by doing. Also, if you've made it this far, take a second to like the video. It helps more than you think. And if you're someone who wants to keep growing in emotional intelligence, communication, and real connection, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because this isn't about becoming more attractive on the surface, it's about becoming more present, more intentional, more real, and that changes everything. As we come to the end, remember this. Attraction isn't about perfection. It's not about saying the perfect thing. It's about creating moments that feel honest enough to be remembered. Moments that leave a quiet emotional imprint. Moments that stay, even in silence. When you speak with clarity, when you notice deeply, when you appreciate genuinely, you stop being just another conversation and you become an experience, something rare, something felt, something unforgettable. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing awareness over autopilot. You're already changing the way you connect, just by listening with intention. Take a slow breath, stay grounded, speak with presence, and lead with respect. Until next time.